There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. Relationships begin to crumble, confusion takes hold of the mind, and the heart starts to question its own strength. But what if I told you that this storm is not your breaking, it's your becoming? What if I told you that the chaos you are feeling is not punishment but preparation? In the stillness between your breakdown and your breakthrough, God begins his work. And when he is about to bless a woman with something big, he does not always send comfort, he sends signs. The first sign is a sacred discomfort. She will feel uneasy where she once felt settled. The job she used to love, the people she used to please, the life she used to accept, none of it fits anymore. This discomfort is not by accident. It's a spiritual agitation. It is the soul waking up, stretching its arms and whispering, "There is more for you." This unease is the divine stirring the waters. Like a snake sheds its skin, the woman who is being called for something greater must first shed what no longer serves her. The second sign is isolation, not loneliness, isolation. Suddenly, the people she once leaned on fall silent. The crowd thins. The phone stops ringing. But this too is sacred, because when God is about to elevate her, he removes distractions. He silences the noise. Why? Because revelation often comes in solitude. When the world grows quiet, she hears her own voice again. And through that voice, the whisper of the divine grows louder. What feels like abandonment is, in truth, alignment. God is saying, "Now that I have your attention, let me show you who you are becoming." The third sign is a burning desire for something she cannot yet name. It's a restlessness not tied to a person, a title, or a place. It's something deeper, something eternal. Her spirit begins to crave growth, purpose, expansion. She starts seeking wisdom, not gossip. She starts investing in peace, not attention. This is the beginning of vision. When a woman starts preparing for blessings she cannot yet see. The world may call it ambition, but spiritually it's divine expectation. It's God planting a seed that will soon grow into something massive. The fourth sign is the return of past battles, old habits, old wounds, old fears. Things she thought she had already conquered resurface, but not to destroy her, to strengthen her. The final test before elevation is always resistance. God allows the old version of her to knock at the door one last time asking, "Are you sure you've outgrown me?" And in choosing differently, choosing herself, her healing, her truth, she affirms that she's ready to walk as the woman she prayed to become. The fifth sign is divine detours. Plans begin to fall through, opportunities close. What once seemed like a sure path becomes a blocked road. But in these moments, she learns to surrender, to release control. This is not rejection, it is redirection. She begins to understand that delay is not denial, it's design. The universe doesn't say no without preparing a better. In the waiting room of life, her patience becomes power, and her faith becomes the bridge between the now and the next. The sixth sign is the arrival of mentors and mirrors. New people enter her life, some to teach, some to reflect. She meets those who challenge her thinking, who speak life into her purpose, who see her not as she is, but as she could be. These people don't compete with her, they call her higher. She may also see herself mirrored in others' struggles, learning from their failures and victories alike. In this season, the right voices show up not by coincidence, but by covenant. Because when God wants to bless a woman, he sends people as confirmation of her rising. And finally, the seventh sign. She begins to feel peace where she used to feel fear. The things that once terrified her, letting go, stepping out, starting fresh, now feel possible. Not because they've changed, but because she has. She no longer begs for permission to live fully. She no longer shrinks to make others comfortable. She walks boldly, even in uncertainty, because she knows who walks with her. And this peace is not shallow. It is not surface-level happiness. It is a deep, unwavering knowing that what is for her will not miss her. That God is not a man that he should lie. That every tear, every test, every turn was part of the promise. So, to the woman who is listening, if you are seeing these signs, know this. You are not crazy. You are being called to rise, called to become, called to carry something greater. And it won't look like anyone else's journey because your blessing is tailored for you. Yes, it will be heavy. Yes, it will be uncomfortable, but it will be holy and you will not walk alone. In the ancient traditions, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But when the soul is ready, God moves. And when he moves, everything that tried to break you will bow to what he builds through you. Trust the signs, trust the process, and above all, trust the one who sent them. Because your time is not just coming, it's already unfolding. When God is about to bless a woman with something big, she often first feels deeply uncomfortable in places where she once felt at ease. This discomfort isn't random, it's a divine stirring. The universe is disrupting her routine, removing her from environments that can no longer support her growth. Like a seed must break through the soil, she too must break through her comfort zone. The discomfort signals that her current life is too small for her future self. It's not punishment, it's preparation. She may suddenly find herself alone, not out of abandonment, but because elevation requires elimination. God God removes certain people, silences certain voices, and clears certain spaces to create room for divine instruction. It's in solitude that she reconnects with her intuition. What once seemed like rejection becomes redirection. She begins to hear not just her thoughts, but her soul. And in that stillness, revelation comes. The isolation is the sacred cocoon in which the transformation begins. Just when she thinks she has it all figured out, things may fall apart. But this too is part of the design. Closed doors are not failures. They are fences of protection. The universe reroutes her not to confuse her, but to align her with something far greater. The detour may delay her idea of success, but it never delays God's timing. In surrendering control, she learns trust. In trusting, she learns peace. The blessing is not lost. It is simply being relocated to where it can fully flourish. One of the most undeniable signs that something big is coming is the peace she begins to carry within her. Where there used to be fear, there is now quiet confidence. Not because the journey is easier, but because her faith is deeper. She no longer doubts her path because she knows who is guiding it. She stops begging for permission and begins walking in purpose. This peace is her spiritual confirmation. What she prayed for is on the way, and she is ready to receive it. There comes a time in a woman's journey where everything that once made sense begins to unravel. She wakes up with a heaviness she can't quite explain. The things she used to enjoy no longer feed her soul. The people she surrounded herself with begin to drain her more than inspire her. And even when nothing external has changed, something internal shifts, something subtle yet undeniable. That is the moment discomfort creeps in. But it is not the kind of discomfort that screams. It's quiet. It whispers. It moves slowly, like fog rolling over a familiar path, blurring everything she once knew with certainty. And in that fog, she feels it. A restlessness, a disconnection, an awareness that the life she's been living no longer fits the woman she's becoming. It's not that she is broken. No, she is awakening. What she feels is the cracking open of her spirit, the shedding of the skin of who she was. Just like nature must allow the leaf to fall in autumn to prepare for the bloom in spring, so too must she let go of what no longer belongs. This discomfort is sacred. It is not the result of failure. It is the call of growth. And when God is about to bless her with something bigger, that blessing cannot exist in the same space as the limitations she used to accept. So the divine begins his quiet work. He removes her peace in complacency. He disturbs her contentment with smallness. Not because he wants her to suffer, but because he needs her to stretch. Growth never happens in still waters. It happens in the storm. It happens when the soul gets stirred so deeply that staying the same becomes more painful than changing. And so she begins to question, why do I feel this way? Why do I no longer belong in places I used to thrive in? Why do I feel so disconnected from a life that once felt like everything? That is the beginning of transformation. Her discomfort is a signal that the old chapter is closing. And though she may not yet see the next page, her soul already knows the story has shifted. The dreams she once buried begin to call her name again. The whispers of her potential, long ignored, grow louder in her ears. She may try to resist it at first, hold on to the familiar, cling to the safety of the known, but the discomfort will not be silenced. It will wake her in the middle of the night. It will weigh heavy on her chest. It will speak through moments of sadness she can't explain and through tears she doesn't understand. This is not weakness. This is awakening. The discomfort is God shaking her loose from a life too small for her destiny. And though it feels like confusion, it is the first spark of clarity. She is being invited to rise, to walk away from everything that once felt like home but now feels like a cage, to walk towards something unseen but divinely designed. The discomfort is the bridge between her now and her next. And when she finally stops fighting it, when she begins to listen, to honor that inner disturbance, she steps into her power. She realizes that discomfort is not something to avoid, it is something to embrace. Because every woman called to greatness must first be made uncomfortable by mediocrity. And every woman chosen for something sacred must be pulled away from the ordinary. So if she is feeling restless, lost, or uncertain, let her not panic. Let her not shrink. Let her not beg for what is leaving. Instead, let her understand. The discomfort is the signal that the blessing is on its way. And before God blesses her with something big, he must first remove her from everything too small. There is a sacred silence that begins to fall over a woman's life when she is on the edge of something divine. One by one, the voices around her begin to quiet. The people she once felt closest to no longer feel as close. Conversations that once sparked joy now feel hollow. Invitations dry up. The phone stops ringing, and slowly, gently, she begins to feel alone, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. But this is not loneliness, this is isolation. And there is a deep and profound difference. Loneliness is the ache of disconnection, but isolation is the womb of transformation. When God is preparing a woman for something greater, he does not do it in the crowd, he does it in solitude. The distractions of noise, of comparison, of others' opinions are too loud for her to hear the quiet guidance of her soul. So he begins to strip it all away. He doesn't do this to hurt her, but to help her. Because there are lessons she can only learn in the silence. There are truths about who she is and what she's meant to become that can only be revealed when she is no longer performing, pleasing, or proving herself to the world. In the quiet, she meets herself. She sees her wounds, her patterns, her fears. And though this can feel raw and even painful, it is the beginning of spiritual clarity. For the first time in years, perhaps in her entire life, she is alone with her own energy. There is no one to validate her, no one to applaud her, no one to distract her from the work within. And this is where the transformation begins. In this sacred isolation, she begins to recognize who she truly is beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the expectations. She begins to hear her intuition speak. She begins to feel the presence of the divine, not as a distant force, but as a steady companion within her. God never leaves her in the isolation. He meets her there. And he uses that space to plant seeds in her soul, seeds of wisdom, seeds of healing, seeds of strength, seeds that would never take root in the noise and chaos of her former life. This season can be misunderstood by others. They may think she's pulling away. They may label her as distant, cold, even arrogant. But what they don't see is the sacred work taking place in her spirit. They don't understand that the cocoon must be sealed tightly for the butterfly to form. She is not hiding, she is becoming. And as the days go on, she learns to cherish the silence. She begins to crave the stillness, not fear it. The same woman who once dreaded being alone now sees it as holy. She no longer begs for company that dims her light. She no longer tolerates voices that drown out her truth. She becomes protective of her energy, not from ego, but from understanding. She realizes how precious this space is, because it is in this space that she is being rebuilt, redefined, and redirected. And when the time is right, when her spirit is rooted, when her vision is clear, when her strength is restored, God will slowly begin to bring new people, new opportunities, and new paths into her life. But now she will recognize them from a place of alignment, not desperation. Because the woman who has been through divine isolation is no longer searching for validation. She is walking in purpose. She carries herself with a peace that confuses the world because it was not given by the world. It was born in the dark, sacred stillness where God whispered, "You are ready." So if she finds herself in this season now, let her not resist it. Let her not run from the silence. Let her sit in it, breathe in it, learn from it. Because the isolation she fears is not abandonment, it is initiation. She is not being forgotten, she is being formed. And when she emerges, she will not be the same. She will be stronger, wiser, softer in heart, but sharper in discernment. And she will know that everything that left her was not rejection, but preparation. In the absence of others, she found the presence of herself. And in the presence of herself, she found God. There is something almost indescribable that begins to rise within a woman when she is nearing her breakthrough, something that doesn't have a name, yet cannot be ignored. It's not quite a plan, not yet a goal, but it is real. It lives deep within her belly, stirring at odd hours, nudging her to wake up earlier, to pay attention more, to breathe differently. It is a divine restlessness, a sacred inner stirring. She begins to crave more, not in a greedy way, but in a deeply spiritual sense. The life she's living begins to feel too narrow, too confined, like a room with shrinking walls. She may not yet know what she's meant to do, but she knows she's meant for something more. And that knowing becomes a quiet fire. Her soul starts reaching out beyond her current life, seeking answers, wisdom, purpose. She begins to hunger for knowledge, not gossip. She wants books, not distractions. Stillness, not noise. The conversations she once entertained no longer satisfy her. She wants depth, not drama. She wants peace, not performance. There is no switch she consciously flips. This shift happens organically. The desire comes from somewhere beyond logic, beyond planning. It is a signal from the soul, a whisper from the divine saying, "Prepare yourself." And in response, her habits begin to change. She may start organizing her life without knowing why. She declutters her space, simplifies her routine, pulls her energy back from anything that feels excessive or fake. She becomes more intentional with her time. She may even start walking away from things that once defined her, not because she is lost, but because she is realigning. What no longer fits begins to feel unbearable. She starts saying no without guilt. She creates boundaries not as walls, but as sacred circles of self-respect. And though she cannot yet see what is coming, she trusts the impulse to get ready. It's as if she is nesting for a future that hasn't yet arrived. This too is divine. The craving for more meaning, for more authenticity, is not her being difficult. It is her being summoned, called, prepared. And though she may look the same on the outside, inside she is undergoing a quiet revolution. She is rewiring her thoughts, reprogramming her beliefs, shedding every version of herself that was built on survival or silence. The desire for something more, something deeper, is her soul's way of saying, "I am done shrinking." And as she follows that fire, as she leans into that hunger, she begins to rise, not loudly but powerfully, not for applause but for alignment. She doesn't need to rush the process because her spirit knows the divine is never late. It moves precisely, strategically. Every change she's making is preparing her to hold what she once only dreamed of, and so she trusts the craving. She follows the pull. She no longer tries to numb the restlessness. She honors it. Because she knows now, the ache for something greater is not a flaw. It is a divine instruction. And when God is about to bless a woman with something big, he does not give her the whole picture. He gives her a desire she cannot explain. A hunger that keeps her moving, a vision she sees only in glimpses. It is faith disguised as longing, and the woman wise enough to listen will one day realize that the thing she couldn't name was the very thing she was born to carry. There is a subtle, almost imperceptible shift that begins to unfold in a woman when she is about to walk into the blessing that heaven has ordained for her. It does not come with loud announcements or blazing signs. It arrives in the quietest form, peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from the absence of problems, but the peace that holds steady in the midst of them. Where she once responded with anxiety, she now responds with calm. Where she used to overthink, now she breathes and lets go. It's not that her life has suddenly become easier or more predictable. In fact, sometimes it grows more uncertain, more chaotic. But something within her is different, stronger, quieter, deeper. The storms still rage, but she no longer panics because she knows who anchors her. The waiting no longer breaks her because she knows who is writing her story. She begins to release the need to control every outcome because control no longer brings her comfort, trust does. She doesn't chase what's leaving her because she has learned that anything God removes was never required for her destiny. And in that surrender, in that quiet letting go, she discovers her greatest power, peace that passes understanding. It's not something she can explain to others. It lives in her eyes, in her voice, in her stillness, in the way she no longer forces anything to happen. She's not passive. She is prepared. She is not lazy. She is aligned. She does not move in panic. She moves in purpose. This peace is a sign, a sacred indicator that her soul has entered a new frequency. She's no longer begging life to be gentle. She's becoming the woman who can handle the weight of the blessing she asked for. She's no longer intimidated by the weight because she understands the pace of miracles is not rushed. She's no longer anxious about who left because she trusts that what is coming carries more meaning than what has passed. And this peace, this inner sanctuary, is something no one else can give or take from her. It was born in the wilderness. It was shaped in solitude. It was carved through every tear, every letdown, every moment she thought she couldn't go on, but did anyway. Now, instead of constantly needing validation, she begins to trust her own discernment. Instead of fearing rejection, she sees redirection as mercy. Instead of fearing the unknown, she embraces it with curiosity because she knows her steps are guided. She may still have moments of doubt because she's human, but they no longer define her. The doubt may knock, but peace answers the door. Her heart no longer rushes to fix things prematurely because she's learning the rhythm of divine timing. The woman who carries peace walks differently. She no longer seeks loudness to feel worthy. She no longer seeks perfection to feel accepted. She stands in the middle of the unknown, knowing she is protected. This kind of peace isn't a result of arriving at the destination. It's the preparation for it. It's a divine sign that her soul is now ready to receive what she once wasn't able to hold. Because the blessing she is about to receive does not come to chaos, it comes to clarity. It does not come to fear, it comes to faith. And when a woman finds peace in the waiting, in the undoing, in the silence, she has already stepped into the beginning of her breakthrough. Peace is the evidence. Peace is the arrival before the arrival. Peace is the whisper from God saying, "You are ready now. Watch what I will do next."